Hi, my name is Kristy Medo, and in the spirit of realizing that not everybody has time to read, I am going to read a post that I had made in my blog called The Importance of Bees and Basic Things to Know. Side note, I am not a professional audio editor, nor do I have the desire to be such. And so I'm going to read this, and if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I'll just stop and continue. That being said, these snippets can be found on my website at www.kristymedo.com under my blog post section. They are not necessarily related to massage therapy, although that is what I currently do for a career. But it is a nice place to kind of keep all of these very interesting topics and thoughts and conversations. So I will keep them attached to my website. So here it goes. In 2016, I was a student of philosophy, environmental ethics to be specific, and I had responded to some online chatter about how I had been disheartened by people attempting to lay blame on the uneducated who do not understand the situation on why bee populations are on the decline and how it's impacting our food sources. In summary, the claim was a sort of post that was trying to use shock value to entice one into action of preventing bees from dying by saying things along the lines of, those spraying pesticides are responsible, and when we no longer have avocados and strawberries, we can turn around and point the fingers at them. I don't find that to be helpful and thought I would share some level of insight from my own perspective, having learned a thing or two while studying ecology on why bees are important and what shows up in our refrigerators. I'm no expert, and any true scientist will cringe at the way I'm presenting information, but if I can't boil down complex science with a bit of humor, then scientists might as well be mimes with awkward hand gestures that nobody understands. I once was intimidated by people who I regarded as scientists or those in the know about a variety of topics. Instead of feeling the ability to ask questions, I felt inadequate in my basic understanding. And so without the courage to ask, I'd often find myself learning alone through books and other resources I could access. Imagine if scientists with the knowledge could only remember that they too were once unaware and had to begin with simple questions to understand any given topic. As I progress down my path of learning more about science and evolving as a person who cares about our planet, I want to make sure that I keep the doors open to share what I learn to save others from the fear of asking questions, even if they seem basic. Scientists are the minority, and the majority need the minorities to help understand some of the complex environmental and scientific topics of today. It is no secret that bees are in trouble. The media does an exceptional job of making sure that the negative side of the situation is represented. But if one does not understand a thing or two about bees and what their issues are, little can be appreciated regarding their demise, nor can one take personal responsibility to aid the situation they are being blamed for, as mentioned above. So let's start by understanding that there are two fundamentals that we need to know a little bit about. Number one, the life of a bee. And number two, how plants make what we call food. For the sake of simple understanding, I will not delve deeply into matters. Scientists, I am not speaking to you, so have mercy here. But I will give the average reader enough of a picture to allow them to understand what they need to know in order to understand why bees are diminishing and what they can do about it. How plants make food. There's no romance story here, but often we would call food, like fruits and vegetables, a byproduct of the reproduction of a plant, so often an embryo. That's right, foodies, your food is a plant baby waiting to be conceived. So how do plants have sex? How do these plant embryos, fruits and vegetables, come about? Since the average male plant can't walk over to a female plant and woo her into late-night activities that lead to plant babies, they need someone or something to present to help them distribute their sperm onto the female parts of a plant. so that she can then produce fruits and vegetables that we eat. This is what we would call a pollinator. The job title indicates one who collects and delivers plant sperm. Please note, not all plants reproduce in this way, but most that are our food sources do. Some plants actually have sex with themselves. Whoa, now that's another topic that I won't be covering here. Now this is why bees are important, and so important for me to discuss the life of bees and their role in the process of growing food. The life of bees. Understand that there are bees and wasps. Wasps are aggressive. They have the ability to sting multiple times and live. Wasps do not make honey and eat most other insects and larvae, but have been known to also seek pollen and nectar. Wasps do not produce honey. Bees are less aggressive because if they sting once, they will die, and their job is to collect massive amounts of pollen to bring back to their colony so honey can be made to serve as a food source for larvae and those living within the colony. Because of the bees' honey production and the need to collect pollen, bees are very special and assist many different plants in the ability to have sex as mentioned above. So this is my ultimate message. No bees, no plant sex. And if there is no plant sex, then there will be no plant babies, aka fruits and vegetables or seeds to keep the plants reproducing generation after generation, all ending in less human plant, fruit, and vegetable sources. So why are the bees dying? There are many factors that are acknowledged in the scientific community, but I will focus on the one that most of us can help with: chemicals. Many of us want to eliminate pests in our lives, and we do so by the use of chemicals that are designated to target one pest or another. But almost always, there are many other living things that are harmed in that process. Chemicals act on cells, and living things have cells. It's very hard to isolate a chemical that knows only the cell type of the living thing we are trying to get rid of. This also includes bacteria and fungi. So when we use the chemical, just about anything living that it comes in contact with will suffer a cellular alteration, adjusting the way a normal living thing functions, eats, breathes, has offspring, etc. So imagine this. We have a pesky beetle that eats all the buds on the plants in our garden. The buds will eventually be flowers, also known as the sex organs for the plant reproduction. As the plants just begin to grow and develop the buds, we want to get rid of the beetle so the plant can live, grow flowers, and have bees land on them, spreading their sperm to other female flowers, so we spray a chemical that is meant to target the beetle. The chemical lands on the bud later opens into a flower, the bee lands on the flower and the pollen, and the chemical sticks to the bee's legs, and both the pollen and the chemical are brought back to the hive where all the other bee babies, larvae, and worker bees, drones, and queen eat and become sick and die. This is not the only chemical death. Some chemicals are sprayed that cause death on contact, as we find in many stores. Many have heard about the aerial spraying for the Zika virus in Florida, which killed off more bees than I can assign a number to. Other causes of bees' death are seemingly more subtle, such as poor nutrition and disease. So you might be thinking, well, I don't use chemicals, but the reality is that chemicals are everywhere in our lives, and we don't always understand where those chemicals end up. This topic is very technical, but I'll simply point out that chemicals under our sinks generally end up going down the drain or with our trash, out with our trash. And where do those things end up? Back in the environment. And what is in our environment ends up in the soil and water, which gets cycled back into the earth, and perhaps where plants soak up particles of what ends up in the soil and from rain and other bodies of water. A scientist or ecologist, one who looks at the interactions between everything I mentioned above, will try to develop ways to keep the needs of the people, animals, and the planet working in harmony. But nature always wins and reacts according to the stresses placed upon it. It's sad to see we are trying to alleviate one problem, but we actually create another. This is no matter of just scientists who are creating compounds like chemicals. It is also the responsibility of the user like us to ask where we can begin to minimize our use of anything chemical. So some actions you can take are: 1, to always evaluate the need for pesticides and fertilizers. Can you eliminate or replace them with natural substitutes? 2, can we replace a chemical in our daily lives with something less harmful? Perhaps a cleaner could be substituted with apple cider vinegar, baking soda, or eliminated completely. 3, can I share a basic knowledge with somebody who might not understand all these things? After all, once upon a time, I didn't know or understand, and maybe there are others who don't know as well. Knowledge is the most powerful tool we have to create a better future. So share this post, share what you know, and that is where change can begin. And as always, if you don't have time to read paper versions of anything, consider getting subscriptions to things like Audible or other blog posts or things like YouTube that you're hearing this on, or anything that you can simultaneously live your life and still learn a thing or two and hopefully save the planet.